So it's a Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. We got Stugotz back. Dan will be back in tomorrow.
Shocked that he missed today. It's Open Championship week.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Jon Stewart isn't doing his show today. There are logistic issues for the Daily Show. So I know Dan wanted to be here, but I think with the travel coming back from Africa, that was too difficult to task. The plan was always for him to be in tomorrow. So he's going to be in tomorrow, and it's going to be business as usual. It takes a lot to outshine what happened over the weekend in terms of security breakdowns and Copa America. Its final.
They tried.
Hard Rock Stadium, man, they did their damnedest to be the least secure place in America this week. Chris, Cody, you were there. I was out there. Terrifying scene. Really scary images. Tons of people got roughed up. And let's get into why this happened, how it happened. Chris, you've been to several events at the stadium.
Besides Miami?
Well, you knew there was going to be a show aspect to this. Once the final was announced, Argentina, Colombia, I was trying to explain to people outside of South Florida what this was. I called it one of the biggest international soccer matches of all time.
You told me it was the biggest.
No, outside of the World Cup,
right?
You could make a real argument that was the biggest soccer match ever. And there were a lot of people, it's like, it's not even the biggest soccer match of the weekend. You got Spain versus England. Shut up. Get-in price was like triple what it was for Euro. I know this market. I know those teams. I know its support. I knew it was going to be something to experience. And thankfully, the MLS helped us out, and we were there for it. But driving up, you already knew it was going to be bad news. Chris, you go to events there a lot of times. I'm a Miami Hurricane season ticket holder. I was really concerned when I pulled up and I saw less uniformed personnel than I do for a Bethune-Cookman game establishing a perimeter.
But driving up is when you realize this could be a problem. I could have told you that a week ago.
Well, look, this is a venue, Stugotz, that kind of successfully and quietly has become one of the premier venues in all of entertainment.
Yep.
There aren't places that can host world-class tennis, Formula One, Super Bowls, WrestleManias, Taylor Swift's, college football playoffs, the way that this one has. And it's done all of that without any public scrutiny, without any high-profile incidents. It's always been well organized. And driving up, yeah, I could tell right away that something was different about their setup, and it was not going to be a good thing. Chris, did you have the same experience?
It was just an insane amount of people. The vibes were actually great until you got up to the stadium. Like in the parking lot, in the far parts of the parking lot, it was kind of normal. It seemed really crowded, and I was like, holy shit, everyone's got a ticket to this thing? And the parking lot was like, you can't get into the parking lot without a ticket. That rule was not followed.
No one had a ticket.
But, dude, when I tell you it was legitimately scary, every gate before, like at 7 when they were supposed to open, every gate, the four corners, and like the VIP entrances. When I'm telling you, tens of thousands of people pressed up against it as if they were like trying to, like, it was scary, dude. People banging on the glass. Like, I understood why they were like, we're not opening this. And like Mike said, there was no barrier. So it was one of those things where as soon as they opened the door, they got bum rushed. The employees at that point were probably told, don't fight it. Just like, what are you going to do at that point? I didn't even scan my ticket to get in because the entrance that I was at got bum rushed to the extent that I was sitting there with my ticket like, where do I scan this? And I just walked in because it was chaos. There was fights. I saw someone got like kicked in the face. I saw a guy with his kid and the kid's like sobbing, crying. It was legitimately horrifying for a good like 10-minute stretch getting in there.
So why was it that way? And I mentioned like the Bethune-Cookman perimeter that they established outside the stadium for Miami Hurricanes games. The Miami Hurricanes and the stadium operations people, they pay uniform personnel to be on the outside. CONMEBOL, for whatever reason, who's a governing body here in conjunction with CONCACAF, they take over lead when it comes to stadium ops. So pulling in, you don't have the uniform personnel outside establishing a perimeter, checking for parking vouchers to get into the stadium. To get into my parking lot, had to make a U-turn that was really not efficient at all, and I was left on my own on an island as a sea of people were moving from nearby places, being dropped off by Ubers. They were all on the street. So I'm getting waved at by stadium personnel who is now inside the gates who usually is outside the gates, telling me to come in. And I'm asking how? How can I drive in there? There's right now, presently, as you're screaming at me, not doing it in a kind fashion, but I understand it's all crazy. There's presently 80 people around my car right now. You are telling me to drive through them without any uniformed personnel guiding the way to come meet you there. Fine. Now, I'm an outlier because they checked my parking ticket and to see if I actually had tickets. And I got in, and then I got to the ticket place where I actually enter, and this is the entrance. I went in the entrance that I do for Hurricanes games all the time, and I know exactly how that place got bum rushed because I went to the front of a line after waiting for 40 minutes for a suite entrance ticket. I go to a suite entrance, and someone tells me that's not the entrance for this. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's always the entrance for this. They're like, well, that's always the entrance for other things, but today the entrance is over there, and he points to a singular door with a singular metal detector with a line that is wrapped around the venue, and he tells me to go to that entrance. So you're having thousands, every single person with a club-level ticket trying to squeeze into one door. Now in front of me, there are fights, there's pushing, there's shoving, and once you start having two people pushing and shoving, it's a domino effect. More people push and shove, they crack open a door, you're hot, you got your family, you start making a run for it. You start pushing against. The entrance that I walked in was that entrance that you've seen on social media that got totally destroyed, the 72 Club entrance. That's where I walked in. I can absolutely see how that happened. I don't want to excuse the behavior of the people there, but I also think it was a byproduct of the entire setup. I've been out there for Miami FSU. Those people for Miami FSU, way more sauced up before the actual event starts than these people. This got out of hand. This got violent. And it was all because it wasn't mitigated on the front end. People made this situation worse. And you have families trying to defend themselves. You have cops now coming in with a full head of steam, making things worse, really pushing things because they're not stadium ops people. They're trying to manage this entire situation, which has already crossed through the threshold into a very dangerous public security matter. And so they're going to meet that moment with the type of aggression that you're used to seeing from Miami PD. It was all really bad, really scary, really messy. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Hard Rock Stadium operations were allowed to do their usual job and had to take a back seat to a whole bunch of bureaucrats that don't know how to operate that stadium. And we saw how it played out with people actually going into AC vents, like
Dude,
Die Hard.
Going into AC vents, people sneaking into the 200 level, which is like the suite level. And at points, they had the doors shut with like something in it, blocking it. And people are like on the glass like, no, I have a ticket to be in there. And they're just like, nope, there's thousands of people out there. We're not letting you in. Just legitimately scary. At one point, I don't want to make light of this. At one point, I almost grabbed a kid and did my I have a child thing. It was that kind of chaos.
It did feel
I
like
have a
Titanic.
child.
Run through with a kid.
I have a child. Let me in.
It did feel
Great
like
shield.
Titanic. It absolutely did feel like Titanic.
What was the idea with the vents, right? We were playing the video on stream.
I don't know.
Were people going to get through, like, schematically through the stadium to, like, somewhere else? Is there, like, a place where you can, like, just hop out on the other side? Because what if you get in that vent,
Mission
dude?
Impossible.
You start climbing, you're like, oh, shit, I'm lost. Where do I go?
Mike and I were sitting in like our nice suite, and we were expecting like a head to like come
Sweet,
through
huh?
the air conditioning
It's like,
vent. Like, up, this place is taken. All right, next.
Yeah, we were absolutely expecting people
Sweet.
to crash through the top of the ceiling in our suite. Yeah, MLS hooked it up. We were in Club Live. And if we had that difficult of a time getting in, I can't imagine what people in the upper deck were experiencing. Again, I told you, the get-in price for this was 3 times as much as it was for the Euro Final. People had paid $3,000 and didn't even get their ticket scanned. Some people were just stuck outside.
Is there a chance that someone is stuck at a vent right now?
There is.
Wow.
There absolutely
Trying
is.
to call, doesn't have service. He's like, oh.
There's absolutely, like, I'm sure they're doing a thorough search, but yeah, absolutely.
You say that jokingly. I would bet that there's one fan still in that stadium.
I guarantee you there's a fan that's somewhere they shouldn't be right now.
Stuck, though.
Potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you'd leave the
Banging.
stadium if you weren't stuck.
At this point, you're banging, right? You're like, all right. I need
And
to
then
get out of here.
once you get inside the doors, you realize that where are all the people? It was the game's kicking off in 15 minutes. I know there's a ton of people here. I just walked through a sea of people. Where is everybody? You knew the game would be delayed in true, like, governing body soccer style.
They were in the vents.
There was a public announcement from some dude, I guess an official from CONMEBOL, with a bunch of cops behind him. and he was saying something that seemed important, but the sound wasn't working on the announcement, so I don't know. But I gathered that they were saying that because of what was going on outside, they were going to delay the game. The game got delayed about 75 minutes. I know a bunch of stories, and I know a bunch of people that tried to get to their seats. People were in their seats, and they had to handle it mano a mano, which is like, hey, get out of here or I'm going to have to get security. And you had a couple people calling bluff. Go find the security. Security has bigger fish to fry. They're not going to help you out here. So a bunch of people had tickets. They didn't actually watch the match from the seats that were assigned to them. It was real bad, real bad.
What time was the game supposed to start?
Supposed to start at 8.
And what time did it start?
9:22.
Did you guys have a time in mind where, like, hey, if it doesn't start by this time, it's a Sunday night, I got to work tomorrow. Did you have a time in mind where you're like, hey, I'm going to bail on this game?
I had that for if we didn't get let in. But we got let in like around game time.
So you would have waited till 11 if you had to.
I was sitting like, if it's 9 o'clock and we're not even in the stadium yet, I'm leaving.
I had a babysitter, and so I had to get back at a time. I also had a friend who had very nice seats that couldn't make it to their seats, and she was stuck outside. And I was worried about her because she was just by herself. So I wanted to make it out safely. I went to the bathroom, and I saw several police officers in riot gear, and I was like, this could be bad. At that point, you wonder, like, depending on how this game ends, this could be a riot afterwards, and the police are dressed like they're expecting it to be. So I told Cynthia, let's leave at around, like, minute 80. And I take Cynthia, we go downstairs, the elevator doors open to the 72 Club. I see this disaster area, and I saw 200 Miami PD riot officers. It feels like an Armageddon type of movie. It was really scary. So that just made me want to get out of there more. And so I find my friend. I get swarmed by like 14 people trying to get a screen cap of my ticket so they can go inside. I'm like, read the room, pal. I get to the car. I drive through some barricades because I had heard that they closed off 27th Avenue, which seemed like a great idea at the time, let me tell you. I just got to the 95 exit, and I was
This is an action movie. I mean, you driving through barricades.
I had just watched Dante's Peak.
Right.
I'm working on a limited fake.
It's a good movie.
Limited fake Pierce Brosnan and Dante's Peak. You want to hear it?
Yeah, please.
You have to put the town on alert. What are you doing? You have to put the town on alert. He says that like 75 times in the first half hour.
Why are you working on this?
You have to put the town on alert.
But why?
Well, it actually came in handy because I got everybody in my Jeep and I started driving like Pierce Brosnan and Dante's Peak. Putting the town on alert. Lucy, this would have been the best edition of off-roading ever. You really miss a golden opportunity here with Colombia, Argentina.
When we went to Michigan, Ohio State, the fans were like swarming us and they were not nice. And that was just Michigan fans. So I could not be happier that I was not there.
Well, it was a different shade of maize and blue. Probably as incoherent and angry as you've ever seen. Look, there were a lot of people that wanted to be a part of that atmosphere that thought they just wanted to be around the grounds. They have that TV. It's actually set up for if you want to just tailgate and you have a ticket to do so. It's actually kind of a nice setup over there. We've seen with tennis and whatnot, totally different crowd. 3 times. Also, I heard from this is my own reporting, from stadium ops people that I know at Hard Rock Stadium. Company Ball also sold more tickets than they actually had. So that was a contributing factor as to why more people were there. But, this is an event town. You know that there was an expensive ticket. People were just going to want to be there around that atmosphere. And then people were like, well, shit, if everyone's going to make a run for it and some people are going to get in that stadium, why don't I? So it's a real mob mentality thing that spirals out of control. And thankfully, I went to bed as soon as that match ended, really afraid for what I was going to wake up to because I saw all those riot cops. I just thought, wow, Colombia's not going to take this loss well. And thankfully, nothing on social media afterwards. So kudos to law enforcement and stadium operations for salvaging what was a disaster and a huge black eye for a venue that is usually stellar in this department.
I feel like everyone at the end was just like, we've done enough.
Yeah.
Let's go home.
Well, this is so
Really?
It was just kind of like,
Yeah,
I feel like
this
we've
is
caused
bad.
enough
It's been
chaos
a
for
day.
one night.
it's been
It's after midnight.
It's been a weekend.
Let's leave it
Yeah,
alone.
we're all just a little tired.
No one needs this in their life. Let's just go. International soccer matches, especially ones that have access to the secondary market. Keep in mind, a lot of these cup finals, there isn't a game time that you can go into in Europe there is no such thing as a secondary market. I know that's hard to believe for club soccer. Like, if you want to see a Premier League game, you're risking a lot if you're going to try to go to the secondary market. It's just not an aspect of the ticket marketplace over there. So you never see what you saw, which is all these rival fans sitting together in their pockets. Yeah, you have some silos, but you have sky blue and white shirts next to yellow shirts, and you're hoping for a lot of harmony in a really emotional game.
A lot of yellow.
And it was a lot of yellow, but we could all see that. There were some people saying like, oh, this is Messi mania. I'm like, dude, you have no idea what Miami is.
I'll get to him in just a second, but you cannot allow people who don't have tickets into the stadium, into the parking lot to tailgate, to get all liquored up. Because they're so close to a game that they want to go to, there's a good chance that some of them are going to try to get in illegally.
Well,
That's a terrible idea.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Stugotz, you're
Captain Hindsight.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a rule. No, you're not allowed in the parking lot without a ticket, but it was just hard to enforce it.
But Mike's saying there's a tailgating area. You're that close to a game that you really want to see. You're all liquored up. You've been drinking for 4 hours. Yeah, some people are going to get unruly. They're going to try to get into the stadium.
Right, but you mitigate that by having a perimeter and you have different checkpoints that people will go through. So they're not all bottlenecking, and you don't have like one person there telling tens of thousands of people, no, you don't have a ticket. You have a ticket, come on through, because that's going to have a huge delay. You spread that out across all the entrances, which is what they do for friggin' Bethune-Cookman. And why they didn't have it there for the Copa America Final, I don't know. I mean, I do know because CONMEBOL was in charge and CONCACAF was in charge, and they decided, no, we're the sheriff in town. You listen to us. To which I say, and I saw the mayor's statement on this, you're the cops. You don't say CONMEBOL was in charge. You're in charge. You're the cops. What are you doing? Why is no one throwing their hands up saying, that's a bad plan? We do this all the time. I'm sure it happened, but look, this is how you get the cup final. You bend at the knee. You bend the knee to CONMEBOL and CONCACAF and you say, you're in charge. We'll do things your way, even though our way keeps everybody safe. Even though our way has a stellar record and is able to host World Cup tennis, World Cup matches. We'll see if that happens in 2026 now on the heels of this. But Formula One, you name it, this venue can do it. But here, with CONCACAF and CONMEBOL involved, that's when we're going to decide we're going to be a show.